This evening, first up, cracking down on corruption. Vice President Bharrat Jagdeo orders an immediate investigation into gold smuggling and official collusion. Following U.S. indictments against Nazar and Azruddin Mohamed, he says the time is now to go after those who defrauded the state. Health, betting and change. The government moves to tighten gambling laws and raise taxes on the industry amid growing social fallout. Dr. Jagdeo warns that online betting is destroying families and draining household income. Also, Cutlass here at Leonora Secondary. A video surfaced of a youth entering a school compound armed with a blade. Police are investigating and officials are assuring parents that security will be stepped up. Meanwhile, preserving the past while building the future. President Irfaan Ali breaks ground for ANSA McAL's new Chateau Margot Mall as the company pledges to protect the historic sugar estate chimney standing nearby. And overseas, Washington turns up the heat. U.S. President Donald Trump admits authorizing covert CIA operations in Venezuela, reigniting fears of regime change in the region. Those stories and more coming up on Headline News Update. Stay with us. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for October 17, 2025. I am Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. First up, the government of Guyana has called for an immediate and comprehensive investigation into gold smuggling and the involvement of corrupt public officials following allegations of large-scale tax evasion linked to the Mohamed family. Vice President and Secretary of the People's Progressive Party, Dr. Bharrat Jagdeo, made the announcement on Thursday during his weekly press conference, urging the Ghana Revenue Authority and the Ghana Police Force to act swiftly.
GRA, the police, must immediately start the investigation of all of those corrupt officials who collaborated, and the gold board, who collaborated with the Mohammeds in smuggling the gold in every period, in the APNU period as well as the period under the PVP. They must immediately start the investigations. I was asked before the elections about what we are going to do with these officials. And you recall what I said. I said, we don't want these matters to be dealt with now in the election period. There will be time enough after the elections to go after these individuals who have collaborated, and a time is now.
Dr. Jagdeo said the probe should focus on the alleged smuggling of US $50 million worth of gold out of the country and officials who may have facilitated the operation. His call follows recent U.S. indictments against Nazar and Azruddin Mohamed for wire fraud, money laundering, and tax evasion related to gold exports. Emphasizing transparency, Dr. Jagdeo said the investigation must cover both the previous APNU-led administration and the current PPPC government period. He reiterated that while there will be no political vendetta, those complicit must be held accountable. The time is now to go after those who collaborate to defraud the state, Dr. Jagdeo asserted, adding that the inquiry should extend to individuals within the Ghana Gold Board who may have assisted in that scheme. Continuing on our coverage of the Vice President's weekly press conference, the government is preparing to introduce stricter laws and taxation measures aimed at reducing the growing social and economic impacts of gambling in communities across Guyana. Vice President Dr. Bharrat Jagdeo, speaking at his weekly press conference on Thursday, said gambling, once confined to hotel casinos, has expanded through mobile apps and small outlets nationwide, creating widespread social problems, particularly among single-parent households.
This gambling that has blossomed and created a series of negative problems from our communities, breaking up families, creating hardship for a lot of single parents, mothers especially, where people utilize the money that they have, their income, to all day be online gambling, because what we have now is gambling on demand. It is on every phone. It's an app, and it's facilitated by the local establishments and a very liberal licensing policy and a very liberal taxation policy. So expect stronger regulation in this area, and appropriate taxes.
The Vice President said the government could no longer ignore the distress caused by online betting, with reports of families losing their income and stability. The administration, he says, will move to make gambling a tightly regulated and high-cost activity to deter excesses. Dr. Jagdeo also urged a cultural shift, warning that gambling erodes long-term financial goals such as homeownership. He confirmed that swift and aggressive policy changes are coming following concerns raised by religious and community groups. Moving on, authorities are investigating a concerning incident at Leonora Secondary School after a video emerged showing a young male entering the school compound with what appears to be a short cutlass on Thursday, October 16th. Police responded promptly following reports, but the individual involved had already left the area. Preliminary inquiries indicated that the incident may have stemmed from a confrontation among students, during which a group within the compound reportedly threw bricks at 3 males passing by. One of the males then entered the school with the weapon. A teacher intervened and successfully chased the armed individual from the premises, and no injuries were reported. Authorities are working closely with school officials and the welfare department as investigations continues. The police have assured that a thorough investigation will be carried out to determine the full circumstances surrounding the incident. Stick around when we return. Jagdeo urges contractors to form partnerships as government targets 4,000 new homes. And ANSA McAL confirms Chateau Margot Mall will preserve historic chimney.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Our smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services. 316 Mill Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for do a surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Vice President Dr. Bharrat Jagdeo is calling on local contractors to form partnerships to meet the government's ambitious goal of constructing 40,000 new homes over the next 5 years. Speaking at a news conference on Thursday, Dr. Jagdeo said the initiative outlined in the People's Progressive Party's 2025 manifesto will require contractors to adopt new construction methods and improve efficiency to avoid delays that have plagued previous projects. He noted that with more than 8,000 homes to be built annually, contractors must embrace innovations, including the use of locally produced prefabricated materials, and collaborate with international firms to boost capacity.
Given our local capability, we can't handle all of this. So our local firms would be best served if they could come up with partnerships. You would have to have partnerships with international groups. I will advise them, they have about a week more before the ads close for us to conceptualize, to look at what housing units we're going to build. They're putting in different proposals now. We'd have to examine the quality of the material, their pace of implementation, whether they have financial capacity to complete this large-scale task. So I would advise now all the local contractors who are interested, you can't do this on your own. You have to get together in larger groups.
The Vice President also announced that the upcoming national budget will include allocations to expand the housing program, which already delivered over 50,000 houses between 2020 and 2025. The government, he added, is also exploring models such as village funds and material grants to help citizens build their own homes. In other news, President Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali earlier today turned the sod to officially launch construction of a new commercial mall at Chateau Margot on the east coast of Demerara, a project led by Trinidad-based conglomerate ANSA McAL. The president noted that the impact of transformation will begin in that area with the construction of the new mall.
Today's ceremony is an affirmation of confidence in our people and in our economy. A company like ANSA McAL does not one day get a brainwave and decide to build a mall. And we know that when ANSA McAL builds a mall, there are certain features that you can celebrate, as you're seeing today. One of your hidden mottos is to redefine landscape. And definitely this investment will redefine the landscape here on the East Coast.
In response to public concerns that the development could threaten the historic Chateau Margot chimney, ANSA McAL issued a statement assuring that the heritage site, a protected national landmark, will remain under state control and untouched by construction. The company emphasized that the mall will be built on privately owned land adjacent to the chimney. Currently, activities are limited to clearing and landscaping, with no heavy construction underway until engineers assess the chimney's stability and recommend any necessary reinforcement measures, after which construction can proceed. ANSA McAL also confirmed ongoing consultations with the National Trust of Guyana and relevant state agencies to ensure heritage preservation remains central to the project. The Chateau Margot chimney, a vestige of the colonial sugar plantation era, remains a celebrated cultural landmark, and ANSA McAL has pledged to continue safeguarding and making it accessible to the public throughout the mall's development. Don't go away after the break. Peru protests. Prime Minister says state of emergency to be declared, and NATO bolsters eastern flank as EU unveils defense roadmap to deter Russia.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lenders, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Current smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services, 316 Mill Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world. CARICOM leaders held a two-day caucus to discuss a U.S. request to install radar equipment and personnel at Grenada's Maurice Bishop International Airport. Grenada said any decision will follow legal and technical reviews. The proposal sparked public opposition amid rising U.S. military activities in the Caribbean. U.S. President Donald Trump said he had authorized covert CIA action in Venezuela. Al Jazeera's Alan Fisher reports.
5 strikes in 6 weeks, 27 people dead. Donald Trump says they may now start targeting alleged Venezuelan drug traffickers inside the country.
We are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control.
The White House has claimed, without presenting evidence, that each boat carried drugs headed for the United States. It has proclaimed it is now in an armed conflict with the drug traffickers and says that gives them the legal right to do what it's doing. One international law expert says that is deeply worrying.
The administration's position is they could declare anyone outside the United States a terrorist and unilaterally blow them up with no evidence and no due process. That's a scary thing for any government. And so hopefully this set of incidents is going to raise some discussion about that and some demand for constraint and restraint on behalf of the administration.
In what was a surprising admission, the US president also confirmed he'd authorized the US spy agency, the CIA, to carry out covert operations in Venezuela.
I authorized for two reasons, really. Number one, they have emptied their prisons into the United States of America. And the other thing are drugs. We have a lot of drugs coming in from Venezuela.
The US has a history of interfering in Latin American politics. In the middle of the last century, it supported right-wing coups in places like Bolivia, Chile, Argentina and Brazil and elsewhere. A history Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro invoked when told of Trump's comments.
No to CIA-orchestrated coup d'etat, which recall the 30,000 disappeared in the CIA-backed coups against Argentina, the Pinochet coup, and the 5,000 young people who were killed or disappeared. How many more CIA coups? Latin America doesn't want them, doesn't need them, and rejects them.
A number of US politicians, Republican and Democrat, have raised the question of the legality of the operations off the coast of Venezuela. But Maduro, whose last election victory was questioned internationally, says he's mobilizing the military, the police and civilian militias to defend his country from the threat of regime change. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Peru's Prime Minister Ernesto Alvarez says a state of emergency could be declared in the capital, Lima. Al Jazeera's Charles Stratford reports.
Demonstrators light candles on a pavement in the Peruvian capital, where a protester was shot dead. CCTV footage shows the moment the man was gunned down. A police officer has been charged.
They killed him. Let's be clear about that. This was murder. It's not just the police officer who killed him who is responsible. Some politicians are responsible, and they must answer for his death.
Peru is yet again suffering a crisis that has sparked nationwide protests and calls for wholesale political change. The demonstrations are organised by so-called Gen Z protesters, transport workers and civil society groups angry at politicians for what they say is a decades-long failure to tackle corruption and crime. On Wednesday, crowds marched on the Congress building before security forces fired tear gas and rubber bullets to force them back.
I was giving some of the protesters oxygen from a tank when one of the police officers came and shot me at point-blank range.
They don't deserve to be in power. They're completely illegitimate. We demand a solution to this crime problem. They're killing us every day. And what are the police doing here? Protecting those wretches in Congress.
The unrest comes just days after the swearing-in of the interim leader, José Herri. His predecessor was forced to step down, accused of corruption and abuse of office. Dina Boluarte was often described as the world's most unpopular leader. She had approval ratings of between 2 and 4% when the Congress voted 122-0 in favour of her removal from office. The Congress itself has only a single-digit approval rating, and the new interim president is its former chief. Herri has also faced corruption allegations and was implicated in a now shelved investigation into sexual assault. He has denied wrongdoing in both cases. He has pledged to make tackling crime his top priority, but many Peruvians have heard this all before. Charles Stratford, Al Jazeera.
NATO is increasing its capabilities on its eastern flank after a recent Russian drone incursion. Al Jazeera's Hashim Al-Habara reports.
Eurofighters scramble from this NATO base in Lithuania. Pilots here are on a mission to protect the skies of member states. Intercepting drones is a new challenge, particularly after recent Russian drone violations.
We have deployed 8 Eurofighters, Typhoon, and one A400M with the capability of air-to-air refueling in order to improve the quality of the missions. So we are ready to take off in less than 15 minutes in order to contribute to the security of the area of the Baltics.
But as more countries join the push to strengthen defences in NATO's eastern flank, the EU is putting together a new defence policy so the bloc can deter any attempt by Russia to invade more territory. The new plan aims to bolster the arms industry in Europe, encourage buying military gear from within the EU, and investing heavily on air and missile systems, drones and artificial intelligence. The bloc wants its armies to be equipped with less expensive but more efficient weapons.
Every country is at risk. Every member state should be investing in counter-drone systems and capabilities to hit ground targets. That is why we consider that this is a flagship project.
But for the EU to be ready, it has to overcome internal divisions, bureaucracy, and a long tradition that sees defence as an issue of national sovereignty that should not be decided by Brussels. For now, they all agree Europe has to have a powerful army by 2030. In the meantime, the EU is going to build a drone wall to protect its eastern borders.
It's challenging, especially at night time. But as you see, our gears, we have night vision goggles, so actually we can handle them. But that's the most challenging. You know, at night, low level, intercepting like small drones. That's really challenging.
Fighter jets continue their patrol on Russia's doorstep. For the Europeans, Moscow remains the biggest threat to their security and warn they're not taking chances anymore. The EU understands there will come a time when it can no longer rely on the US or NATO for its defense, but at the same time, it remains far behind Russia in terms of military capabilities, and this explains the rush to build a self-sufficient and reliable European army. Hashim Al-Bara, Al Jazeera, Cholet Air Base, Lithuania.
This brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3-event forecast. And that's it to be 2 headline news for this Friday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. We will be off for the weekend, but you can tune in on Tuesday at 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourselves and each other, and do have a wonderful weekend and a happy Diwali.